In his understanding, the cards embodied a secret and esoteric alphabet. It's interesting to note that the church prohibited gambling and playing cards, but not tarot cards interpreted in this way. Etelia enthusiastically read tarot cards for Parisians. These sacred items symbolize the four suits of tarot: wands, cups, swords, and pentacles. What do the mysterious Atlantis, ancient Egypt, the European Renaissance era, Aleister Crowley, Masonic lodges, and Alejandro Jodorowsky's never-released film Dune have in common? You would never guess unless you saw the clickbait title of this video. But the answer lies in 5 letters. Tarot. In the modern world, only a person living in a bunker has not heard of tarot cards and the predictions based on them. Endless crowds of YouTube tarot readers, TikTok mystics, TV fortune tellers, political tarot analysts, all of this pours out from every kettle, enticingly offering simple solutions to our complex life problems with the help of a stack of beautifully illustrated cards. For a long time, I wanted to figure out where to place the tarot system. What is tarot? Is tarot fortune telling based on prejudices and superstitions like palmistry or sympathetic magic? Or is it an esoteric practice that helps to delve into the essence of a person's psychological state and relationships with the material and spiritual through visual images and archetypes, and based on this, draw conclusions about the direction of our life's journey? In reality, the true power of this system remains an unknown mystery. However, in my opinion, it is possible to come closer to the truth. In this video, we will primarily delve into the historical background of tarot, focusing solely on facts and leaving aside most of the conjectures and interpretations. We will attempt to explore this phenomenon and answer the question: where did tarot cards originate from, and how has the system evolved from its inception to the present day? The first thing to note is that the word tarot itself has several possible origins. Some researchers claim that it derives from the Arabic turuq, meaning road or path, while others link it to the Celtic word tara, which may indicate a connection to the ancient Celtic magic. The name tarot is also associated with a card game popular amongst the Italian nobility during the Renaissance, in which tarot cards were used. This game is known as tarocchi, but we will discuss this later. As of 2024, there are thousands of varieties of tarot cards in the world, and many ways to interpret them. Modern custom decks are impressive for their creativity and ability to adapt to trends. Today we'll examine what are considered the most authentic decks, without which the history of tarot cards would be incomplete. Versions of tarot origins. There are several main theories and legends on this topic. According to one legend, tarot is connected to the lost civilization of Atlantis. It is said that during the proto-civilization of Atlantis, people drew arcana on cards. Incidentally, arcana translates from Latin as mystery, and used them in their mysterious rituals and divinations. There is no evidence to support this theory, so we will not dwell on it for long. A much more interesting theory is the Egyptian one. It suggests that in ancient Egypt, there was a secret temple of initiations with drawings of the major arcana on its walls. Tarot is also linked to the legend of the Egyptian Book of Thoth. According to the legend, this ancient Egyptian text contained secret knowledge, magical formulas, and spells that could grant the book's possessor immense power and wisdom. This hypothesis was first proposed by one of the most famous researchers and popularizers of tarot, the Frenchman Antoine Cour de Gébelin, in his book On the Game of Tarot in 1781. However, we are getting ahead of ourselves. It is important to note that the connection with Egypt has never been proven and is now considered merely a beautiful legend. Regarding the reason for the desire to establish a link between tarot and ancient Egypt, contemporary researcher Helen Farley aptly commented in her book, A Cultural History of Tarot. In late 18th century France, tarot had become so far removed from its original cultural context that deciphering its symbolism was no longer possible. Instead, it was reinterpreted according to a new set of intellectual trends, which included an admiration for exotic cultures, esoteric doctrines, and a yearning for a lost golden age. In particular, France was obsessed with Egyptomania, fueled by Napoleon's campaign in this exotic land. Arthur Edward Waite, the creator of one of the most influential tarot decks of the early 20th century, ironically commented on the achievements of the French in the history of tarot cards. In reality, no one knows where tarot came from, except for the natives of France, who always firmly know the answers to all questions in the field of occultism and its history. Thanks to their efforts, tarot has come to be called the Book of Thoth, or the Book of Hermes Trismegistus. And since the cards themselves provide no evidence for this, they began to perfect them and adorn them with Egyptian symbols. Indeed, it is truly unknown when Egyptian symbols began to appear on tarot cards. Upon deeper examination, it becomes evident that this is a classic case of reversing cause and effect to manipulate facts in support of preconceived notions. Thus, the theory of Egyptian origin of tarot seems quite implausible to me. Now let's move on to the third, and in my opinion, the most plausible version of the origin of tarot cards. The history of tarot cards begins 5 centuries ago, in the 15th century. This was an era of widespread reform, a time of blossoming of art and new ideas, creation and reinterpretation. In simple terms, the era we now call the Renaissance. The 15th century, the center of civilization, Italy, and the city of Milan, the Visconti dynasty rules. It is here that the then unknown artist Bonifacio Bembo painted his 22 triumphs, or trumps, a series of cards that, with little alteration, became part of the classic tarot deck. These cards were used to play a game popular among the nobility called tarocchi. The game of tarocchi typically involved 4 players who competed against each other. The game somewhat resembled the modern game of bridge. I will say a few words about the structure of the classic, if we can call it that, tarot deck. It consists of 78 cards, 22 major arcana, and 56 minor arcana. Like modern playing cards, there are 4 suits: wands, swords, cups, and pentacles. The suits only apply to the minor arcana, and if we leave out the major arcana, we are left with an almost standard deck of modern playing cards. The major arcana were used as trumps. First and foremost, the cards reflect the social structure of that time. The major, predominant arcana, kings, queens, princes, princesses, and the entourage of nobles represent the upper echelon, the elite, the intelligentsia, and the brains of science. The minor arcana depict commoners, creative individuals, slaves, and serfs, dreaming of a better life and the opportunity to approach the court. Wands represent slaves, laborers, and workers. Swords symbolize the military, the guards who defended the gates. Pentacles represent wealthy nobles, merchants, while cups represent common people, artists, poets, and musicians. It's interesting to note that the church prohibited gambling and playing cards, but not tarot cards interpreted in this way, which were used even for readings in the Vatican. By tracing the analogy of the major arcana, it's evident that they clearly depict the struggle between good and evil, temptation by sins, the purification of the soul, enlightenment, the attainment of spirituality, and faith in higher powers. Even one of the tarot cards, the 5th arcana, the Hierophant, depicts the Pope as a sign of deep respect by the creators of the deck towards the existing religion. But beyond the Italian nobility, the cards did not gain widespread popularity until the 18th century. Était la tarot. The situation changed dramatically around the years of 1773, when Count Antoine Cour de Gébelin, who had previously studied theology at the University of Lausanne and later became a wandering preacher of the Reformed Church, became fascinated with mythology and sacred mysteries. he began to publish his unprecedented work, The Primitive World, Analyzed and Compared with the Modern World. One volume of his research contained an essay on the game of tarot. Additionally, as an appendix, there was his own investigation of tarot, including the possibility of divination through cards. It was there Gébilon first proclaimed the hypothesis regarding the Egyptian roots of tarot and elevated the teachings of tarot to the legendary book of Thoth. 2 years later, the Gébilon's disciple, the Parisian master barber Eliette, began publishing under the name Etelia, a method to entertain oneself with a deck of cards called tarot. He changed his name in 1781 when he joined the Masonic Lodge, of which his teacher, de Gébilon, had been a member since 1776. 5 years later, he began trading in Paris with his own deck of 78 cards, richly infused with Masonic symbolism, and it was he who pioneered the introduction of commercial fortune-telling. Etelia enthusiastically read tarot cards for Parisians, which was quite expensive in those times, and soon made a fortune from it. In 1788, Simon Bloquel released a deck that was a variant of Etelia's deck. Half a century later, with a 20-year interval, 2 more variants of Etelia's deck were published. Then, in 1855, the French occultist Alphonse-Louis Constant, whom we now know as Eliphas Lévy, published his book Dogma and the Ritual of High Magic, which became a cornerstone in the development of occultism. The structure of his book was quite intriguing. 2 parts, with 22 chapters each, corresponding to a specific tarot arcana. Eliphas Lévy was less interested in the fortune-telling aspect of using tarot cards. Instead, he was more inclined towards unveiling the sacred mystery of Jewish Kabbalah. In his understanding, the cards embodied a secret and esoteric alphabet, closed to the understanding of the uninitiated, with each of the major arcana corresponding to a specific place on the Kabbalistic tree of life. Interestingly, the works of Eliphas Lévy, which influenced the activities of several occultists, including, by the way, Arthur Edward Waite, also inspired the accomplished British novelist Edward Bulwer Lytton to create impressive novels filled with mysticism and references to the tarot. These novels had an indelible impact on mystics and occultists such as S.L. MacGregor Mathers, W.B. Yeats, who taught Arthur Edward Waite hermeneutics. We'll talk more about Waite in this video, and Aleister Crowley, whose activities were closely linked to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, founded in 1886 by Dr. William Wynne Westcott, shaping the development of occultism in England in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Golden Dawn Tarot. Samuel Liddell MacGregor Mathers developed the rituals of the Golden Dawn Order and was its leader in the 1890s when the order was considered particularly influential. Mathers and his wife, Moena Bergson, who had a talent for drawing, created a special tarot deck. Thus, the Golden Dawn Tarot was born, introducing the English version of the tarot to the world and informing the basis of Arthur Edward Waite's system. Before delving into Waite himself, it's worth mentioning a number of researchers without whom the history of tarot would be practically impossible to envision. Bohemian Tarot of Papus. First and foremost is Eliphas Lévy's follower, Gerard Encausse. Renowned as Papus, he authored such monographs as Bohemian Tarot and Fortune-Telling Tarot. A notable detail, an album of 78 cards was included as an appendix to the latter book. Since the paper was poor quality, it was suggested to cut out the cards first to avoid their swift deterioration, and then paste them onto cardboard. Papus also attributed astrological attributes to the major arcana. Swiss occultist and Freemason Oswald Wirth managed to create his graphic representation of the Papus tarot system. His 22 major arcana are a model of refinement and sophistication, not to mention the skillfully depicted symbolism. These cards were included in the edition of Papus's Bohemian Tarot. Arthur Edward Waite's Tarot. Waite was born in the USA, where he spent his childhood, and from a very young age, he was interested in magic and occultism. The reason for this unusual inclination was a special state he experienced during an illness. For several days, much to the horror of family and doctors, he fell into a semi-conscious state. According to his own admission, it was during this time that he had an enlightenment experience, realizing the unity of the world and humanity. Afterwards, he quickly recovered, and upon regaining his health, despite his exceptionally young age, he firmly understood what he intended to dedicate his life to. He moved to England and continued his studies there. Waite was most devoted to occultism. He studied Kabbalah, alchemy, Freemasonry, and sought to find the key that would unlock the meaning of ancient rituals. In 1891, in London, he joined the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, where he became dominant. Waite had a particular passion for the legends of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Studying the annals, he concluded that the legendary Holy Grail should be understood not as one, but as 4 objects: a spear, a cup, a sword, and a platter. These sacred items symbolize the 4 suits of tarot: wands, cups, swords, and pentacles. From there, it was just a short step to the intention of embodying the ideas and symbols of tarot in appropriate artistic forms. And here, Waite's fellow member of the Golden Dawn, Pamela Colman Smith, came to his aid. Born in England, she nevertheless grew up in an American family and received her training as a theatrical artist in the United States. She was greatly drawn to illustrating books. Being naturally inclined towards mysticism, she joined the Golden Dawn in 1903, where she immediately bonded with Waite, choosing him as her spiritual mentor. Her interaction with Waite had a very direct impact on her. After some time, she noticed that when listening to music recommended by Waite, she experienced extraordinary and vivid visions. Gradually, she began to sketch them, and then, in hopes of getting an interpretation, she turned to Waite. Their joint studies continued for quite some time, and in 1909, an unprecedented deck of cards was created, distinguished from all others by the fact that the cards of the minor arcana were also illustrated. Compared to Papus's work, released the previous year and equipped with a modest album of cards that could only be used when cut out and glued onto pieces of cardboard, this was indeed a full-fledged deck that instantly gained worldwide popularity, setting a kind of standard for later tarot decks. And a year later, Waite's monograph, The Illustrated Key to the Tarot, was published. This book described all 78 cards of the major and minor arcana, as well as providing predictive meanings in upright and reversed positions. Additionally, the book included an extensive comparative analysis of all preceding tarot systems. Thoth Tarot. Another important figure who influenced the development and popularization of tarot in the 20th century was the mystic Aleister Crowley, who published a unique book in 1944 called the Book of Thoth. He joined the Golden Dawn Order in 1898, and in 1909, in his work 777, he revealed the numerological principles of the tarot, partially drawn from Mathers, who was leading the order at the time. Crowley, together with Frieda Harris, created his exclusive tarot deck, unmatched by any other. Here is how these cards look like. Crowley's life and work are incredible, and he rightly stands as one of the most significant magicians and interpreters of the tarot of the 20th century. Perhaps we will return to him in this series again. Let us know in the comments if you would like us to make a separate video about Aleister Crowley. In conclusion, I would like to mention another person who influenced the popularization of modern-day tarot, namely the mystic and legendary filmmaker Alejandro Jodorowsky, who, by the way, is Chilean but has Ukrainian roots. His parents were natives of the city of Dnipro. He is the author of several decks and monographs on tarot interpretation. He is an incredibly profound mystic, an occultist who, in his films, explores concepts of reality and spiritual growth 30 years before it became mainstream. I strongly recommend watching his film, The Holy Mountain, and sharing your impressions in the comments. And if I see enough people in the comments saying, I don't understand anything, what kind of crap did you recommend to me? I think I will be happy to dissect the ideas of this film in one of the next videos. Interestingly, Jodorowsky has always said in interviews that tarot is a tool of reality, and looking to these cards for the future is risking being a charlatan. Nevertheless, what is the future but a projection of the present directly onto time? But that's already too philosophical a debate, and I promised only facts in this video. Well, it's time for conclusions. I think we were able to briefly trace the thread along which this system developed in these 20 minutes. It seems to me now clear why these cards have so strongly attracted the attention of not just one generation of people worldwide. The tradition still evolves and lives on, and who knows, maybe in the coming years, tarot cards will inspire new mystics to understand reality and create new concepts and systems that can help humanity grow and develop. Subscribe if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, and be sure to leave a comment. It will help us grow and make new videos for you. Thank you all for watching. See you.